Hey YouTube, this is AOD Prods here with another addition to the Southern California Western Railroad's rolling stock roster. This is my only and first USA Trains boxcar, 50-foot AAR Double-Door. The rest of my USA Trains collection is mostly made up of reefers, the mechanical reefers, 50-footers that I got in previous years, as well as my F7s, which I have out. Unfortunately, I can't run them on the extension, which I'll show you later, because of a S-curve made up of 8-foot diameter sections of the track that doesn't really track well on. Anyway, so I've taken this video to show you the differences and sort of review the differences between the USA Trains 50-foot boxcar and the LGB 50-foot boxcar. The first big difference is, of course, the design. One of them is modeled after a more sort of prototype design, and also the big thing is the scale. USA Trains models, I think, most of its stuff in 1/29th scale. LGB, however, I believe it models a lot of its stuff, it scales it to 1 meter gauge, because originally LGB's this first locomotive and stuff that they made was scaled to 1 meter gauge. They based it off of 1 meter gauge engines, so it's kind of inaccurate, as you can probably tell by the difference of sizing on the two. It's pretty evident that, you know, this one obviously is built to a bigger scale as opposed to this one. But yeah, and of course, going back to the prototype, unlike this one, it only has a single door. But the next big thing is, of course, the detailing. On this car, the detailing is very nice, as usual for USA Trains Ultimate Series cars. As you can probably tell, the doors actually open. It has a very ingenious locking mechanism, and they open on the other side too. And the locking mechanism is a pretty simple latch that you just flip down, and if you accidentally pull them open, it's not the end of the world. You'll just pull the latch up, which is kind of nice. The LGB car, however, most of its detailing is actually removable. Like, you can actually take off the grab irons and a lot of the details and stuff, and that was actually originally a problem for me, since this was the first piece of rolling stock that I actually acquired. And the big difference is the locking mechanism here, which is actually removable. But the big issue with the locking mechanism is on the other side. It actually came off because while I was operating it, it was lost. But another big thing is the weight. USA Trains' rolling stock is actually quite well weighted, despite being made out of plastic. It's quite well weighted, tracks quite well. This car I've had since about February 2008, and it doesn't track that well. You know, I mean, I've run it. I don't run it in the front of consists behind the locomotive and the rest of the train, primarily because it often has a tendency to derail because of the opposite forces pulling on either end of the car. It has a tendency to sort of come off on curves and just about any irregular section of track. And also, because it doesn't have really any weight in it, it has an easy tendency to topple over. So any really going around a really sharp bend, the thing could, you know, the case scenario has happened before where the thing just goes right on its side, you know, when somebody's not running it at the correct speed. or in a little bit of a hurry. But yeah. So, but another big difference with this car is that it doesn't have metal wheels. The wheels are plastic, which is a big problem in G-Scale. And on this car, USA Trains puts metal wheels on all of its cars, so obviously this car's metal wheels, so it's quite nice. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Another big difference with this car is the hook and loop couplers, which I use because I don't really use the USA knuckle couplers because they are incompatible with other knuckle couplers, and it's just a mess. But these hook and loops on the USA, they have hooks on both ends, whereas the LGB rolling stock, they only have a hook on one end, and on the other end they only have a loop. So yeah, kind of a downside when you're coupling stuff together. I like to have two hooks, so I know the train doesn't separate on any minor grading issue. But so, and then the cost. The LGB car, I got it from the hobby shop for about, I don't know, must have been like $100, which is not very surprising since with LGB you're kind of paying for the brand. You're not really paying so much for the quality. You're really paying for the fact that it's LGB and that's what it is, And unfortunately, they have more of a toy spin to it. They treat it more sort of as if it's a toy rather than a model. Whereas with this car, I got the USA Trains car. I got it for, I think it was like $80, 89, 90, I forget. But unlike this one, I got it from an online dealer, which I think might significantly change the price. But also, your USA Trains, it's, I mean, it does kind of depend on the dealer, but honestly, if you ask me, I would say, if you're going to get a boxcar, or anything for the fact of the matter, I would go with USA, because the problem is with LGB that I've had is, especially when you're trying to find, stuff that they haven't produced since they got bought out by Markland, it's just, I mean, this car, for example, they haven't produced in like, 5 years, because when Markland bought them out, all their stuff had to be completely retooled from scratch. So, but, yeah. Yeah. So, and, that's pretty much it for this review. So, my basic consensus is the USA car is a bit better than this car, has a few ups, and, so, yeah, so, this is AAR Prods signing out.